Thurston put him on his back. Thurston, right foot kick, down the ground, into the in goal almost. Hodgson cuts it off. Hodgson taken by Norton. He took him late. Marshall skips away. Marshall's still going. Marshall's got Richards coming up outside. Now inside. Richards pursued. He pushes Johnson away.
Good evening, morning, day, whatever it might be. Tuesday, the 11th of February, 2025. You're back for another episode of the Tiger Town podcast with your hosts, Zach and Toby. Brought to you, as always, by Best On Ground Digital. They will not steer you wrong. Best On Ground Digital, bestongrounddigital.com, the digital marketing agency that looks after the little guy. Toby, you're on the other end of the line, little guy. How you going?
Good, mate. I'm good. Thanks to our lovely supporters, we are back into week-on-week episodes. Full swing. Happy days. So
Had to do it.
Had to do it. You said it last week in the pod. You said I was a bit taken back that even though you suggested we do fortnightly prior to the trial, you said, and you're a man of your word, you said if anyone comments and says that they want weekly, we'll go back to weekly. A few people commented, wanted weekly.
And here we are. Mate, that's the nicest thing you could have possibly said, but the problem is that the entire evening leading up until this point, all you've done is give me shit about trying to do a podcast this week.
Well, I mean...
At least you're kind on the air.
Yeah, that's it. Like, this is the persona everyone sees. You see the prick behind the camera. Yeah. So, you know, you gotta have two faces in this business, mate.
The man behind the curtain, as it were. Mate, we've got a trial coming up this weekend.
We do. I still can't believe how quickly that's come around, to be honest. Wow. Like, it feels like only yesterday we were talking about, what was it? Something along the lines of 100 days until the start of the season. And the trial's here.
Exactly right. And obviously trials aren't season proper, but you can smell it in the air, can't you? The second that these team lists come out, nearly halfway through February, and we've only got a couple of weeks away from settling into a nice long season of footy once again. Hopefully, something a little bit better than the last few years, mate. Sunday afternoon, 5:30 p.m. Jubilee Stadium down in Cogra, I think. We play the first of two double headers. We play against the Doggies.
Mm-hmm.
5:30 and then 4:30. I'm assuming 4:30 local time.
Yeah, I'm assuming 4:30 our time. It says 5:30 New South Wales time.
5:30 local time. Yep, and the later game obviously be 7:30. Won't it? It'll be 7:30.
Yeah, Dragons and Roosters.
Dragons
have fielded a really strong side.
Have they? Well, I look forward to listening to the next episode of the Dragon Town podcast. But
no, it's just interesting. You don't expect it for the first one, but there you go.
Mate, there is actually, I did, to throw you a bone on that, I did read a couple of all of the other team lists this afternoon, and it's interesting that each side has taken a bit of a different approach, but I guess Benji, he's taken a little bit of a Generation Next approach, which is not dissimilar to what we tend to see most years for that first trial.
Yeah, like, again, I said it last week, it's pretty stock standard for the first trial to be next generation, youngsters, people on the cusp, things like that. And you look at this side, apart from probably a few, which still very surprising in my eyes, who got named, the majority of them are probably next gen, or if on the cusp. So there's a few left out, which I was quite surprised about. I feel like there's at least 3 or 4 there that I definitely said last week. I thought they'd be a sure thing of being named in this one to get some game time because they weren't sure things either. So, yeah. But interesting. I want to, before we jump into this, I think it's, obviously we got to give the youth a bit of due diligence. I want to go through the weekend of the youth that just was, the SG Ball, Howard Matts, etc.
Absolutely.
So for those that aren't aware of the scores, this is just giving you guys a bit of an update on how we're going so far. I think this is round 2 already. So the season's kicked off for our young guys and girls.
Round
So
two completed, yeah, because the week before was
Yep.
obviously the
Old boys' day.
West v Balmain.
Yeah. So if we have a look at, we'll start off with the SG Ball. So actually, then this one keeps surprising me because it surprised me last week as well. The Magpies went down, who I feel have the stronger side, 24-10 to the Bulldogs. Bulldogs have a good system coming through, so that's not too surprising that it was a challenging game. But then, if we have a look at the Balmain Tigers, we beat the Dragons 32-26. So for me, that's again, like I said, I thought it was going to be, more the Magpies that would get a bit more of a start than the Tigers. So
the other thing I want to mention, you were talking SG Ball against the Doggies on the weekend.
Yep.
So it's just remember as well that the Dogs were in the GF last year in SG Ball against the Dragons. So yeah, pretty high flying club and side in the junior department in the last couple of years at least. So it's hard. I don't actually know their squad at all, basically. So it's hard for me to see how much carryover there was from SG Ball last year into this year. But I guess coming off a pretty strong showing last year, the Dogs don't seem to be an easy beat there for that Maggie side.
No, and like I mentioned before, they've got a pretty good pathway system coming through now. So it's not surprising to, like I said, it's not surprising to see it was such a close one. But in the for the Balmain side, we did get we talked about him last week. Probably the next big thing for us after TDS in Jared Hayward. So apparently he had a starring role in that game. Very strong. So we'll talk about the side coming up, but he has been named. I'll give you guys a bit of a shocker. I'm sure no one hasn't read the lineup that listens to us at least 1,000 times. So, and then just to keep going, the girls in the Tasha Gale Cup got up over the Raiders 34-0. And if we keep going down, it's just more like the Laurie Daly Cup. But then the Harold Matts actually annihilated the Bulldogs 34-18, which was really good to see. That was the Magpies. And then the the Tigers, Harold Matts, went down to the Dragons 14-10. So, very happy that we're still really putting our stock into the junior pathways. I think we're seeing a lot of those guys come through now, and you have your ear to the ground continuously about these kids. So I like sort of keeping a tab on them now. And I wouldn't say that I was oblivious in any way, shape or form to our youth, but I didn't really keep that many tabs on it until we started doing this podcast. Then when we started doing this podcast, you started talking about it a bit more. I started gauging a bit more interest. I'm starting to look at these kids a little bit more, and listening to West Tigers Faithful as well. They seem to know their stuff when it comes to the juniors. So, yeah, really exciting to see that what the years are going to bring for these guys.
Absolutely, mate. Thanks for the junior wrap up as well. We try to keep apprised of that sort of stuff as often as we can, obviously, and particularly for people who are more of a casual follower of the side, it's helpful to have that type of information in a bit of a simple, wrapped up, palatable sort of form via our little potty. So, if and when that sort of stuff is of interest to you, the listener, make sure you let us know and tell us if there's anything else that you'd like us to discuss from that junior aspect, if we're able to cover it, or if you're just enjoying getting a little bit of the updates in that regard as well. Sometimes that information for someone who is not as obsessed as we are at times can be a little bit hard to find. So, mate, appreciate you running through all that stuff. We might then, if you're happy to, move into what we're looking at this week against the Dogs.
Yep.
I'll go through both starting sides. Obviously, we're not going to dive into the dog side of things too much, clearly, if at all. I'm more interested in the West Tigers and how they've lined up, mate. So at fullback, we've got Heath Mason. On the wings are Gerald Skelton, new signing, and Alex Lobb. We've got Solomona Atape and Josh Folletti. In the centres, we've got Lockie Galvin and Latu as the 6 and 7 respectively. We've got Tim Johansson and David Clemmer. He's actually a pretty seasoned campaigner. They're starting at prop. But Talon De Silva is hooking the scrum and captaining the side, which is exciting for Talon. Obviously, we've seen or he must have seen, I should say, fair bit of leadership potential in him at some point over the course of the off-season to be really giving him, what is an honour, trial or not. That's a huge honour for the young man, so congratulations, Tal, on that one. We've then got Tony Sukar as one of the edges there, and we've got an interesting selection I'm sure we'll talk about in Sione Fainu in the number 12 on the other edge, which is interesting to see. Justin Matamua locks the scrum, who gets first grab on that lock spot there, clear to see. The 14 is new hooker down from Queensland, Tristan Hope. We've got Kit Lalali'i, Jackson Rami and Solomona Sakuru, who round out the bench. Sakuru being somewhat of a versatile option there, having played everywhere from fullback, wing, centre, prop over his junior career. He's a bit of an enigma, Solomona. Then the extended bench is Will Craig, Lachlan Brodelo, Mark Tennis, Tino Tavana. Tino. We've got a Tito in Taruva, don't we? We've got then Max Lyles, Jared Haywood, and Noah Johansson round out that squad. So, mate, the Doggies line up like this. Far quicker, we've got Taff, Wilson, Smith, Gabrielle Sewer, Drew Hutchinson, O'Neill, Saluka Fafita, Haywood, Hughes, Hayes, Hoppoy, and Salmon locks their scrum. Their interchange is Moyle, Amone, Jones, Todd, and then a whole bunch of reserves you've probably never heard of. Tio Cocker and Spinks, Rena Kamo, Mayu, Wavik Toy, Utukolo, Reardon, Taupa, and Underhill. That's how the Doggies line up. So I would probably argue, bar a couple of key names there in the dog side, mate, the likes of your Taffs, clearly Hutchinson. Saluka Fafita's got a bit of experience. Jamin Salmon, clearly. Blake Wilson, a smidge as well. There's not a whole lot going on in that Bulldogs side from experience. There's probably a lot of gun up-and-comers in their side, just as much as what ours are. But, mate, from my first perspective, I think that the Tigers side probably reads a little bit better on paper. Not that this is about results, but there's a bit of experience in there. At the very least, a fair bit of potential that we're aware of in that side. What are your makings?
Well, shit, I think David Clemmer himself has more experience than the whole team.
Yeah, probably.
Probably just his one campaign. Yeah. Look, there's a few, like I said, that I'm questioning why they've been left out. There's a few that you and I picked straight away. Yep. So Heath Mason, he was our pick for this game. He's pretty clearly Buller's understudy at the moment. He's the backup.
He finished the season at fullback.
He did.
He played the last 5 or 6 weeks at starting fullback for the NRL side. So that's his spot. Yeah.
I did mention I thought Skelton would get a run just because of trying to cement his position. He's not a walk-up start, even though we both have him there. There's still he still has some things to work on. So, and also I think he still has a bit of game time to get into his legs before the season kicks off. So, not surprised there. It's more the centres that surprises me. I didn't expect Fatape and Folletti to be left out, but I thought at least Toa would get at least one of those spots to try to solidify it, and then maybe Dewey as well. So, that one's an interesting one for me. So, have you heard anything in terms of injuries to Toa, injuries to Dewey? I know you said it last week. They'll probably keep Dewey in cotton wool. So potentially that's what they're doing. But have you heard anything with your ear to the ground?
No, nothing from my end, mate. Nothing at all.
And Naden's been named in the All-Stars, so that's why he's not been playing this game.
If we look at that three-quarter line, we've got Naden in the All-Stars, Toa's been sat out, Olam's been sat out, Dewey's been sat out of our centre options.
Yep.
We've got then Fatape and Folletti obviously starting. Sakuru can play centre, probably will play centre at some point. And in terms of outside backs, you've got Will Craig, who is a centre, and you've got Tino Tavana, who's a fullback come winger, so he probably won't see centre. So, look, I guess a lot of our top liners, as it were, not that they are, or our centre stocks are exactly superstar status right now, but there is a few leaving outs or leave outs there in that back line. Lobb was an interesting one to me. I'm not sure about the reasons for not playing Charlie Staines. He's not in the squad at all, so maybe Charlie's a little bit higher in the pecking order than we've envisioned, or like you were alluding to earlier, perhaps he might be carrying something. The likes of Dewey and Olam, I'm not surprised about. considering that they've both come back from off-season knee surgery or cleanups, and I'm sure that the first trial is not something they're really designed on. They would have their eyes set clearly on a round one availability, and their return to play protocols would be contingent upon that, and a bit of a scrimmage game against some less experienced players I don't think is the top of that list. Next week for combinations might be a different kettle of fish. And Toa, I don't know, mate. I'm not sure their thought process there. We've both discussed the fact that we think that Stafford Toa is right in, right in the race. He's in it up to his neck in terms of a starting spot there next to Olam. So, the centre three-quarter line is interesting in particular. The other one I might mention is Luke Leololiti on the wing.
Yeah, I completely didn't. Yeah.
So a lot of people, ourselves included, have picked Skelton and Taruva as our wingers. I think Taruva walk up starts, considering his experience and multi-premiership winner. Skelton, I think a lot of us are pretty bullish on, and I think we've got him in there. But Luke's an interesting one. I don't know whether or not that's something that is a situation, once again, of him being maybe a little bit higher up that pecking order, and maybe Skelton still having a few holes to fill, and possibly, maybe there might be a surprise sprung come round one. It's hard to draw too much from these selections. Obviously, we do have a show to do, so we're going to dive into a few of them and keep talking about some of those discussion points clearly. But just him being picked doesn't mean that Skelton necessarily is down that pecking order, but it is an interesting selection nonetheless. Maybe they're wanting to get a look at him. They're wanting to get a good look at him in a game setting or whatnot. I'm not 100% sure, but the reasoning for leaving Luke out is an interesting one. We might see him maybe next week.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I obviously follow a few of them on Instagram and things like that. With Charlie, he seems fit. He seems okay, unless he's pulled up lame this week. Who knows? But maybe he is. Maybe he is higher in the pecking order than we give him credit for. He's not. He's not horrible. He's been really good. At one point, he was one of our strongest players. Running harder than a lot of our forwards. But then he copped that injury, that pretty serious injury. I think it was a torn bowel or something, wasn't it?
Perforated bowel, yeah.
Perforated bowel, yeah.
Mm.
For a long time. And he took him. It seemed to shatter his confidence a little bit, and maybe he's got that back, and maybe he's showing that in training. So, who knows?
Not sure. Could be a whole lot of nothing too. Like we said, we might be trying to read too much into it.
Well, that's what we have this podcast for, isn't it?
Exactly right. So I might jump ahead for a moment. I'm going to clear out the reserves and quickly discuss each of those for what little I know about those guys. Will Craig, the number 18 down there at the bottom, he's a centre. He's either on a development contract or he's moving on to a development contract this year. There was rumours of him going to Penrith at some point in some sort of if not a junior swap, then simply signing at Penrith into their pathway system, but obviously hasn't eventuated. They've had good raps on him for a while. I don't think he's really going to jump out of the ground. I don't see a whole lot of NRL personally for him from what I've seen of Will, but a solid player nonetheless. A little bit more of a... Actually, no, I'll leave that there. Lachlan Brodelo is somewhat of a recent addition. I think he was 12 months ago or so, maybe 18 at most, but I think he came from the Bulldog system. I might have completely mocked that up, but tough, rough housing sort of second rower. We've spoken about him having a few defensive deficiencies and whatnot. Can get found out a little bit under fatigue in the centre. Mark Tennis is a half, currently playing in the Balmain Jersey Flag. SG Ball, sorry. Where are we? Anyway. Good little half. And same thing, he's been around for quite some time on the Balmain side of things. Tino Tavana, fullback come winger. From what I've read, not from anything I've seen, but from what I've read, other people talk about Tino. He's quite quick, can be a little bit afraid of contact at times.
Yep.
Some of his cover defence can be a little bit weak, but
17, 18 years old.
Take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
exactly right. Max Lyles, I don't know much about Max at all, but I know he's a half from memory.
He's a half. I read something about him, but I've heard that he's one of those halves that takes the line on a lot. But that was, that was from a third party. So, somebody that's seen him, I haven't seen him play at all.
And who we got there? We've got Jared Hayward, we've spoken a bit about, former Australia schoolboy. He's in the New South Wales Cup squad. Young kid and going quite well. You mentioned him in the SG Ball for Balmain on the weekend. Yeah, should do quite well. He's another hooker, and he's nipping at the heels of Talon. Talon's obviously further down the line in his development, but Jared is quite a good young player, so keep an eye on him. Hopefully get some time in the 9, as well as Tristan Hope, who's also named in 14, we'll talk about shortly, and then Noah Johansson, Tim's brother. So another middle from memory. So it'd be interesting to see.
I was actually, just as we were talking then, because I've never seen, apparently he came from the Doggies as well, Noah. Went through the Ron Massey Cup, but I couldn't find anything about what position he plays, but I saw a picture of him against Tim, and they look the same height, so it wouldn't surprise me if it's another middle. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he's played a bit of Jersey flag as well last year, I think, from memory. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see that as well. The Johansson family sort of put their hand up a little bit in the last 12 months and have jumped out of the ground. So, interesting to see how that carries on. Mate, before we jump in then to talking about our halves and through our forwards, I thought you've mentioned a couple of times just some of the players that haven't been selected in this game for whatever reason. I thought I'd just rattle off a list really quickly. We might talk about some notable omissions there. We've already mentioned the 3-quarter line. Just anybody that stands out to you, and then we'll jump in and finish off some of the other selections, mate. So we've got in fullback, got the likes of Buller. On the wings, we've got Taruva, Leilali'i. Obviously, we mentioned he's missing. Charlie Staines, another as well. In the centres, we mentioned Naden is off with Indigenous. We've got Justin Olam, Stafford Toa. And
Adam Dewey
as well. We've obviously got Luai, who's missing this week, but we know the likes of Sania with his appendix and Luai with the quad concern. They're going to be right for next week from what we've been told. We've got Twal, Terrell May, Royce Hunt, who's off with the Māori All-Stars. None of those boys have been picked at prop. We've got who else we got? Jack Bird, Fanua Pole, Safar, Fainu, Samuela, Appy. We've got Brandon Toomuth, who we thought was going to get a bit of a run. So
yeah, that's an interesting one, actually. Yeah, it didn't.
It's quite a list, mate, and a list.
Toomuth was also one of the players that got fronted or got a warning. He didn't front the board, but he got a letter of warning so maybe he's dropping really far down the pecking order.
Interesting point, though, also was Mason.
Yep.
Latu.
Yep.
Solomon Sakuru.
And Fa'atape.
And Latu.
And Fa'atape.
Was he? I don't think he was. I heard he's been lagging in the preseason and he's hasn't been
he was definitely
super
part
impressive,
of it.
But okay. I'm happy to accept that, mate. That's fine. But yeah, those ones, and if you include Sol as well, then they find themselves in the side on the weekend. So either a case of them turning it around or that's hard to say. But
well, yeah, it's an interesting one. Like you think about the players that got or fronted the board or got letters of warning. Clearly, they've all done something to, I guess, reverse that. Not decision. That's not the word I'm looking for, but to reverse that sort of view of them, because they're all starting, but he's the only one that hasn't even got a look in. So it's an interesting one. So, you've flagged it a few times now that you wouldn't be surprised if they paid out Toomuth and put him on like a train and trial or a New South Wales Cup. Maybe it's more than that. Maybe they'll pay him out and see you later.
It is very interesting. I am suspicious there might still be a buyout before the season proper. And I'm suspicious that him not being selected might be a reason that might suggest that that might be the case with him. Yep. Considering how short we are on the edge, considering where he's placed in the pecking order and that he's been there or thereabouts in that couple of tiers down for a couple of seasons, you would have thought, barring unforeseen circumstances or injury, which it may well be, that might be the case. But he's not the side and he's not to be cited, so I guess we'll find out one way or another.
Well, another one that was actually becoming a bit of, he was doing an okay job, was Ruben Porter. He hasn't been named either.
That's a good pickup. Completely forgot about Ruben.
So, and he just signed a new deal. So,
my suspicion with Ruben in that case is going to probably be some sort of niggling injury or something, I would say.
Yep.
He did an admirable job, I think, for a reserve grader, with all due respect. Seasoned reserve grader last year, and certainly a good bloke to have in and around there as, a default third, fourth, fifth drop, whatever it might be.
yeah.
So, yeah, he's an interesting omission. All right. Yeah, look, there's a few on that list that we've mentioned. The likes of Twal is an interesting one for me. I'm assuming they're playing Clemmer for the experience, but Twal to me doesn't provide as much, but he provides a significant amount. Why Clemmer's getting a run over Twal, I don't know. Same with Seyfarth. I thought it would be a great opportunity to see him in that second row position. But, yeah, look, we won't have to wait too long, I don't think, for most of those blokes. I think we'll see second trial, quite a strong squad name. So that's going to be an exciting time, similar time next week. And the other side, about that is the fact that I was doing my best Mike Tyson impression. The other side of that is the fact that we play on the Friday. So 2 West Tigers games within the space of 5 days, which is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Didn't even put 2 and 2 together there.
4,
I
mate,
got
Nichols, 4.
goosebumps, mate. I got goosebumps.
Mate, the back to the side this weekend, Lockie Galvin and Latu in the halves. Surprises? Yes, no?
Well, I did mention last week that if I was reading between the lines with everything I've been reading as of the last few months, he was going to get a bit more game time prior to round 1. So I'm not as surprised that I saw that Galvin was named. It's still a bit of a surprise. Like, if he didn't get named, I would have been, yeah, that makes perfect sense. But, like, if we can keep these 2 until Romy retires, that's our halves combination. Right there.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's the obvious thing.
That's by the time that they're 22, by the time he leaves.
When have you got him leaving? Because they're 19 right now, and he's here for 5 years.
No, they're 18.
No, they're both 19.
They're both 19. Okay, well, let's say they'll
24.
be 24. Let's say 24.
Yeah.
But still.
Oh, yeah, look, mate, obviously it's just, and I love the optimism, it's 5 years down the track, and those blokes will still be young men, probably not even in their prime as halves, so that is an exciting prospect. It's just
trying to keep them.
I mean, the Storm have been able to do it with Jonah Pezzett, and they've been able to make 2 go into 3, so, stranger things have happened. Anyway, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of conversation in 2025 about the Lachlan Galvin contract situation. Hopefully not a whole lot, but I'm sure there's going to be plenty, and that is not a conversation for tonight. Because, to be honest, we're running on fumes.
We don't have 2.5 hours either.
You go.
No, I said we don't have 2.5 hours either to talk about the Lockie Galvin convo.
No, exactly. And it's all, like I was saying, we're just running on fumes in terms of rumours and the tone of voice he says certain things in January and February interviews. So walk away from that. Walk away. Yeah, look, what are they going to bring? I think, to be honest, I look across the aisle at Hutchinson and O'Neill. Don't know much about O'Neill. Obviously know what we get with Hutchinson. They're going to play a basic game plan. I can see these 2 halves with talent as well. And I think the way that they might play in terms of how close they are to the first grade squad. And in many ways, those 3 are decent parts of that first grade squad too. I think they're going to play a style of football that's going to be very reminiscent of what we can expect to see. At least I would hope to see that. Yep. It's not a matter of just putting some cookie cutter New South Wales halves in place and hoping they do the job. I think these blokes are going to, hopefully, I'm just speculating, but try to put out Benji's game plan around that. So for me, it should be interesting to see the way that that the side looks to play. And look, you look across that spine, that's pretty exciting, and it's youthful and it's exuberant. And, you've got the likes of Taff and Hutchinson who have quite a bit of experience on the Bulldog side. Our spine is 4 19-year-old junior weapons, basically. It is.
Yeah.
They're,
No, it
they're
is.
all
No,
19.
I love the ending there.
Yeah,
They're
I was trying.
just weapons.
I was trying to find some words to do it, but junior football stars and Lockie Galvin and the likes have poked their nose up into first grade and shown a lot. So that's a pretty exciting spine in many ways to be fielding in this sort of a game. So it'd be interesting to see.
Well, I can't remember what game it was, but when Latu and Galvin did join the halves, I can still picture it like I just watched it yesterday with the no look pass to Seyfarth, and Seyfarth goes and scores. It looks directly at Galvin, and they both just get super just amped, and they want to be a part of this. They want to do that. So I think you're going to see a lot of that.
In the off season, I watched replays of that try probably 30 or 40 times in a row. Just over and over and over.
I feel like I'm going to watch it after this, if I'm honest.
Just keep watching it, because the magic in that, you can see the thing that really lights me up about that, other than Latu's reaction, which just made me smile, is how in sync they are for having played so few games together in the top flight.
Yeah.
These two have played junior footy together. I think they played at Westfields together, possibly. Might be making that up, but I swear I've seen pictures and images and videos of them playing together in that same jersey. But they certainly played some junior footy together, so they know one another quite well. And I think, on that try in particular, just to relive it momentarily again, the way that Galvin sweeps around the back, and just the execution of that short ball, it's both. And we spoke about it at the time. It wasn't so much Seyfarth's brilliant line that he picked, which it was. It was the fact that both of those halves executed absolutely perfectly. Galvin on those big sweep plays last year was just getting the ball every time.
Yeah.
We barely played a big, blatant short ball like that. And the way that Latu sold it was unreal. So, look, are we going to see more of that on the weekend? Gosh, I hope so. We've got the likes of Sione we'll talk about in a minute on one of the edges, and we know that he could be a dangerous player as well. Haven't seen him much on the edge, but
no.
The types of things these two halves are going to do, hopefully on the weekend, is going to be exciting. How much game time do you think Lachlan gets?
Well, we've got two halves
Yep.
on the bench in terms of Tannis and Lyles. So I don't think either of them will. I think probably half an hour. That's probably what they'll both get. I think they'll warm into it. They'll get a bit of game time together, and then put them on ice. Especially Lockie, because Lockie's obviously got to be ready for the second trial and the second real test as a first grade football team for 2025.
Yeah,
So.
Yeah, I think you're right in a lot of ways. I suspect they might give Latu a bit more time to stay out there a little bit longer. I could see a world where Lockie plays 25-30 and then Latu comes off at about the 50th minute, 55th minute. You might see then the likes of whoever's in favour, probably Mark Tannis come on for Lockie, and then maybe see Lyles come out and play out the game the last 25 or so. That's my suspicion. I might be completely wrong. I did just notice, and this is just a sidetrack before I forget, we're very light on middles. If we look across, so we've got Johansson, Clemmer, who you can't imagine would play massive minutes.
Yep.
We've got then Rami and Kit on the bench. Sakuru is not a middle at all. He's a versatile centre, winger, come second row. He was playing a bit of wing last year. And then onto the extended reserves, we've got a centre, a second rower, two halves, a fullback winger, a hooker, and then Noah Johansson, who's the other prop. So we've only... we don't have a whole lot, so we might see some big minutes maybe from some of these middles, or we could possibly see the likes of Sione move into the middle possibly later in the game too.
Yeah, I'd say that's more likely, but you could also see a lot of these bigger guys that tend to play back row potentially just pushed into the middle.
Sukar, it's not uncommon to play a little bit of prop as well.
No, Sukar. Kit, he's a bit of a wrecking ball.
Well, Kit will be playing as one of the props, obviously.
Yeah. And then maybe even Broadlow, he's boxy, he's bulky. So
yeah,
you never know. Yeah, you at what I've come to realise, you never know what the hell Benji's going to do. So just enjoy the ride.
And especially in that first trial, at least they're not whitewater rafting this year.
Yeah, but he might still go to Fiji. Who knows?
I hope he does. I hope he does when we're 13-1 and flying.
And and when he flies off, he can just have a big flag that says "fuck off, Buzz."
Yeah, righto. So if we move on,
It didn't take me long in the 2025 season to bash the media. I'm very, you know,
mate,
at least I'm consistent.
they haven't even started back up yet. Give them a breather.
Nah, they don't give us a breather. Why should I give them one?
Yeah, good point. Good point. Okay, so looking across then, for me in the forwards, we've got to talk about Sione Fainu.
Yeah.
He's being put on an edge. Now, there's a reason he's being put on an edge. He has traditionally been a prop, and I floated the idea of a lock based upon footwork at the line. Consistent defender, even though first up contact hasn't been at the best. The contact is good, but the hit and stick needs work. And footwork. I said footwork. Did I say footwork?
Yes.
So hands was the other one, as to why I was suggesting lock. But we're obviously across the club relatively short on an edge, mate. Do you think it speaks to Sione's versatility, I guess, as to why he's being given a bit of a trial run there? And do you think it's the type of thing that could work?
Look, for me, when it comes to being, I played a bit of my time in the back row as well when I was playing. The thing about being a back rower is very similar in terms of a centre. You've got to be very light on your feet. You've got to have good lateral movement. I haven't seen that from him. And so potentially what this is doing is for Benji, maybe he has been training there a little bit. It's more like, how is it within, a game situation? Can you have that light feet? Can you be, that lateral movement, be light on your feet, start to work on that first up contact? Because especially when you're in the back row, that first up contact needs to be solid. It needs to hit and stick. When you're in the front row, you can sort of try to put that shot on, have a little bit of a, slide off, because you know that most likely you've stopped momentum and the other ones will come in and the other defensive line will come in and help. But if you're a back rower, you've got to hit and stick. You have to, because they can very easily get an offload on, create a 3-on-2. So, that's my suspicion, is to see how he evolves in a real game. But I would never have thought he'd be picked as a back rower. So.
I've seen him get slowly fitter and fitter in the last 2 years of being with the club. And by all reports, he's killing it at training again. I know we hear those things, but there have been a few names that have popped up, and he is one of them, that he's been absolutely killing it. And he's shredded. Really, really fit. I find it interesting you say that he doesn't have great lateral movement. I kind of see it the opposite. I see him as a pretty mobile middle. So if he's playing in that lock position, I see him being able to move.
I never said he didn't have great lateral movement. I said that I've never seen it. I said he has to have it.
Oh, okay. I thought you said that you'd never seen it, implying that you didn't think that you had it. That's all right. No worries. Yeah. I agree. You do obviously need that lateral movement as well. Decision making is a big thing as well. He strikes me as a smart footballer, and so if he doesn't have that decision making, he obviously has shown the capacity to be able to learn. We spoke about Sam Weller having similar traits last year, pretty adaptable, particularly early on. So, showing that they are coachable, and I think Sione is that, and they would have seen that. The coaching staff would know who they'd be willing to experiment with and who they wouldn't, I guess. Mate, on that edge, I think that the other thing we need to have, obviously, outside decision making, lateral defensive ability. To your point, is the hidden stick. So I'm hoping that that's improved, because it could use a little bit of work in the middle last year, even though the contact was good. It's being able to execute on those tackles is huge. You might only make 10 to 15 a game, but they're often big ones. I mean, a lot of second rowers make a lot more, but depending on if they go to your edge or not, obviously. Fitness is another one. Sounds like he's relatively fit and whatnot as well. For me, one thing that maybe is a little bit forgotten about with Sione, well, two things, but it's his ability to beat the man. And he does that in the middle. You remember a try he scored last year where absolutely nothing was on from about 7 or 8 metres out. He stepped around 2 people from almost a standing start and just scored next to the post. Everybody sort of looked around and went, how'd that happen? So he's deceptively slippery and then quite strong in contact, and he's got a good offload. So I'm all for it. And the listeners know I've spoken a lot about the fact I love experimenting with certain players that have transferable skill sets. And I think Sione, I've been advocating for him as a lock, but Yeah, why not? Try one. Let's see how he goes on an edge. If it's diabolical, we can go back to the drawing board. But I'm a big fan of his, as you know.
Look, if there's no doubt that I think, and we spoke about it last week. The Fainu family, they're born and bred footballers. They're so talented. They're so skilled. So there's no doubt that he could potentially be quite successful there. And who knows? We might have a Fione back row to finish out the season. Who knows?
That'd be
He
cool,
might
wouldn't it?
solidify his spot.
Hmm.
It's just this is what the first trials are for, to obviously test people who are pushing through, to experiment, to find out if things work, if they don't, and then go from there. So, yeah, again, on paper, it's an oddball one.
Yeah.
But, go with it.
4:30 p.m. our time, so 5:30 local time down there in Cogger on Sunday. It's going to be quite exciting, I think, waking up on Sunday knowing there's a Tigers game on.
Yeah, we're
towards the
watching
end of
it.
the day.
We'll be watching it together. We'll both have our jerseys on, ready to go.
Yeah, it's exciting, mate. I'm looking forward to it. Good catch up. It's become a bit of a tradition now. Trials, we come around a bit of a training session, and we sit down and watch the game. I think we even commentated one of the game. Did a live show with one of the games.
Yeah, I think we did.
Years back.
Yeah, a couple of years back. It got 0 views. No one liked it, so we didn't do it again.
Yeah, well, we read the room on that one. wasn't the best way to I guess listen to the pod, but nevertheless, it was worth a bit of a shot, mate. It's hard to know in terms of what the squad makeup the Bulldogs are going to bring on the day. A lot of those names we're not overly familiar with, but let's jump into thinking which way you think the game is going to go. Who do you think is going to dominate, put their hand up? And yeah, what are your predictions for the trial on the weekend? Bit of a funny one, isn't it? Because it's not NRL. There's a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of people that we feel that probably are playing out of position or don't have, I guess, the time in that position that we'd expect. So, look, I think on paper, we're definitely heavy favourites. I think we have a lot more experience. Our spine is a lot more exciting than theirs. That doesn't always translate into a win, but it's definitely something to be excited to watch to watch, and sort of see what happens from there. I think we'll win, and I think we'll win comfortably. I think that my standout, I think, is probably going to be TDS. I think he's going to wear that captain's jersey quite well. Yeah, it's like we said at the start of the show. Good on you, mate, for getting to that point at such a young age. Obviously last year we discussed that Steph got the captaincy, I think, against the Dragons. I think Steph was 23.
Warriors game, maybe? Yeah,
was it Warriors?
I think so, but don't quote me. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I think TDS is going to stand up, and I think he's going to have an absolute blinder. We gave our predictions last week, and I have to change. Not blind predictions.
That was a blind stab in the dark, really, wasn't it?
It was. Yours could still hold up. Mine can't because he's not playing.
Yeah.
So, TDS I think is going to be my one to watch.
Yeah.
But the one that I'm super excited to really get a view on is Hayward. I think I really want to watch him go.
Yep.
Just seen little bits and snippets of him, little highlights, but apparently he's just an old head and he's just a very smart footballer. So,
yeah, great young player, mate. Just going from strength to strength, most definitely. One thing I just noticed, just to rehash something with that Doggy side, their forward pack looks to me like a little bit of a no-nonsense sort of forward pack. And my only concern in this trial is if they come out, a couple of seasoned campaigners in there or some experience in there, and they basically just grind some of our less experienced forwards into the dirt, which won't give us the platform to really to launch from a little bit. I'm sure the game will open up as more and more inexperienced players take the field. But yeah, just something to note as well. I won't be surprised if the Dogs really play a very simple, compressed middle third type game.
Just try
And
to out-muscle us.
Yeah, and I don't know that we've picked a squad like that by the looks of it. So it could go one of two ways in that regard. I wouldn't be surprised if it turns into an arm wrestle and they grind us into the ground and we end up chasing points and make a few mistakes. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if a young spine catch fire and we just light them up. So it's a bit of a halfway bet, but
that's not what we're here for. Make a prediction, mate.
I haven't made my prediction yet. This was just a comment I wanted to add.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, when the Doggies walk through the middle third of us on the weekend, you'll go, fucking Zach picked it again.
I don't think I've ever said you've picked it, so I'm not going to say again.
Well, you do, but you don't do it on air. You do it behind the scenes.
Nah, I think you're telling fibs there.
My prediction, the way the game's going to go, I'm going to be positive. You've got to be optimistic, don't you?
Absolutely.
I think that I'm excited to see. Talon was actually a name that I was really keen to see as well. I think he's going to get some decent minutes. I know they do have 3 hookers on there, but I think he'll play at least the first half solid. Mm-hmm. Fit as they come. He's picked as captain, so he's going to want to get some minutes out there. The other one I think is going to play large minutes is Tim Johansson. We know he does have a pretty good motor. I wouldn't be surprised to see him play an entire first half as well. If not, play a couple of big stints, maybe as much as an hour of football on the weekend, with us not having as many middles there to choose from. I'm going to say we get the win as well because we've got to stay positive. So, which way do we want to go? I think it's just going to be relatively spread across the park. I did say I think Latu's going to dominate. I suspect Latu's going to get quite a few minutes, as I did mention earlier, and I think he's going to do quite a good job steering the side around the paddock. He is a man who is ahead of his years, I suspect, in terms of brain smarts, football smarts. The way I see him move, navigate, off ball and stuff like that as well. You know, you see Locke and Galvin do it with a smile on his face and he's jumping and prancing around like a hyperactive unicorn and he gets results. Latu seems very tactical and cerebral to me, just watching the way he moves and communicates and everything. And I think we're going to see a lot of that on the weekend. I think it belies his 19 years and yeah, I think he's really going to steer him around the park quite well to a pretty comfortable victory on Sunday.
Hey, I'm just excited to watch footy, but a win is always exciting. So
absolutely. Mate, footy's back. How good is that? How good is it? Hey?
Just like Christmas is great and everything like that, but footy season is just so much better.
Yeah, it's just different, isn't it? And we get to this time.
It's just better.
Sorry, yes, you're right. It is better. We get to this time of year every year, leading into the trials, and we do start to get excited. We do, and we get hopeful.
False optimism.
But I think this year we do have a bit of hope. No. In the past, it has been. I listened back to a show the other day, not a whole show, but just parts of a show from 2 years ago, heading into the 2023 season. You should have heard how chipper our voices were. We had John Bateman on board. We had Isaiah Papali'i, Apisai Coruscant. Mate, the side was looking stacked. Destined for success in 23 and 24. And
did you listen to an episode from the end of 2023?
That's what I should do.
The tone?
Yeah, I should clip the tone of voice in both. Yeah, exuberance and excitement, then parlay that into just complete melancholy and misery. Yes, lovely.
Oh God, that should be the autobiography of West Tigers fans.
We pull the cord and we go again. Season 2025. It's not yet here, but the pre-season challenge is officially here. I'm pretty excited. I know you're excited.
I'm so excited. I'm not going to be able to sleep Saturday night.
I will, soundly. But Sunday morning I'll be quite excited. I get to see you, mate. We can watch the football game together.
Yeah, we can watch the football game together. We can... I don't know if we'll get you or you get angry regardless.
I'm very calm. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the hole in the wall says differently.
Which one?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mate, anything you want to add before we sail off into the sunset and look forward to Sunday's game?
Not really. The other thing I'm kind of not excited to see, but keen to see, is if Madam Mill has actually done some work. in terms of improving what he can do because he's obviously playing lock.
Yeah.
So that's another thing because we haven't settled on a lock yet. So
that's true. And there's quite a few names on that list as well, might I add, that they're another off-season, bigger and stronger and older and fitter, hopefully. You know, a lot of people that we haven't seen, a lot of players we haven't seen since the likes of, August last year. Your Masons, your Follettis, De Silva even, Suka, Fainu, Manamua, like you said, Kitlau Lee. We haven't seen these guys for near on 6 months. So it's going to be interesting to see what shape they've returned in, how their bodies have changed, developed and grown for the younger blokes.
Yep.
And going to be interesting to see what they offer in this fresh season. We know that sometimes a player is the same year to year, other times they jump out of the ground. So that's going to be interesting in and of itself, mate.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, just jump into the PSAs. So we always recommend all West Tigers media, West Tigers podcast, the West Tigers Life podcast, West Tigers Faithful podcast. All three get on over and support them. The Ambush on Facebook, West Tigers Forum. Please support that too. You can find us on Apple, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, and Facebook. Mate, I am on an absolute roll, killing it. Thanks once again to our sponsor, Best on Ground Digital. Anything digital marketing related, they are your people. And, mate, that's about it for this show. We were on the fence about weeklies. We're back weeklies. We have to be weeklies now. Thanks to
people have asked for it, so
they asked for it. So thanks to those that commented weekly. You dragged us back into the chair, but as always, we're always better for it.
Absolutely. Well, next week we won't just be previewing a game; we will be reviewing a game. So the pod will be longer. We'll hopefully be happy, and. Yeah, then we'll just continue on from there.
100%, mate. I'm pretty excited about it.
So excited. So excited.
Sunday, 5:30 p.m. local time down at Cogger. If you are around, get on down, support the boys at the start of that double header. Otherwise, we'll be watching on TV from up here in Brisbane at 4:30 p.m. our local time. Nothing else left to say, mate. I'm pumped. I hope you're pumped. Everybody out there is excited. West Tigers footy is back, and go the mighty West Tigers.
Up the Tigers.